Ok, boa tarde. Bem-vindos ao Teatro Maria Matos. I would like to very welcome Judith. I'm very happy that you have made it to Lisbon. Bem-vindo também Nuno e Salome. O meu nome é Judith Butler, sou diretor do Teatro Maria Matos. A Salome é co-curadora deste ciclo, Gender Trouble. Obviamente, I will talk in Portuguese since you understand everything. So she really understands Portuguese. It's really amazing. She reads all the text in Portuguese. Anyway, so umas coisas muito rapidamente. Como sabem, isto é assim um bocado o ponto alto de um ciclo que tem duração de 1 mês e meio, com espetáculos, workshops, conferências, seminários, uma série de eventos. É obviamente o ponto alto porque todo o ciclo foi construído à volta da obra da Judith Butler, o Gender Trouble, e livros que foram saindo a partir daí, desde 1990, é isso? Sim. Bom, só queria anunciar duas coisas. No próximo fim de semana temos um espetáculo absolutamente maravilhoso de Meta Invertsen, que se chama 69 Positions e tem tudo a ver com este tema. A Meta trabalhou a história do corpo em palco e, sobretudo, do corpo sexualizado em palco ao longo dos últimos 25 anos também. E mistura isso com a sua própria história como artista e coreógrafa. Para além disso, também temos um workshop para o qual ainda há alguns lugares, que é um workshop de Aquelarre Cyborg, que é uma organização de Barcelona, e que é um workshop que tem como título The Body as a Sound Post-Gender Instrument. Queria só rapidamente ainda mencionar que lá fora temos uma livraria, que é a Livraria Marcel, que tem estado aqui conosco durante todo o ciclo. Eles têm livros para ver e para vender também, obviamente. Finalmente, queria agradecer à Fundação para a Ciência e a Tecnologia, que trata do live video streaming. Aliás, queria dizer também a toda a gente que esta conferência continua disponível no site do Teatro Maria Matos depois deste evento. Quem quiser mostrar a outras pessoas ou voltar a ver mais tarde, é perfeitamente possível. Também queria agradecer ao Jornal Público, que é media partner deste ciclo, e finalmente dizer que este ciclo também faz parte de um programa da rede House on Fire. É uma rede europeia da qual o Teatro Maria Matos é fundador e que tem o apoio do programa Cultura da Comunidade Europeia. Bom, passo a palavra a Salomé e depois começamos.
Deixamos aqui o microfone. Bom, é com grande entusiasmo que vos damos as boas-vindas a esta conferência, que é a quinta de um ciclo de vários outros debates, onde estivemos a debater performance de género, performatividade e política. Trabalhamos várias coisas, debatemos várias coisas, desde a história da arte ao pós-colonialismo, falamos de antropoceno e hoje é sem dúvida o culminar deste ciclo. Eu queria aproveitar a oportunidade, porque ainda não a tive, de saudar o teatro, porque esta é uma iniciativa do teatro. Foi o Marco e a Andreia Cunha que me contactaram a dizer faz 25 anos que o livro foi lançado, foi publicado, vamos fazer algo em torno deste livro, uma programação vasta e, portanto, porque normalmente acham que fui eu que propus ao teatro e há que deixar bem claro, porque isto é uma coisa rara, é uma coisa especial, é uma coisa de deixar bem claro que é uma iniciativa de um teatro municipal trabalhar estas questões e, portanto, aproveito a oportunidade também para isso. Queria agradecer ao Nuno Carneiro, que é pós-doutorando em Psicologia Crítica em questões LGBT, por ter aceito fazer a moderação de hoje e, of course, a special thanks to Judith Butler e para vocês todos. Já ia falar em inglês. E é tudo. Boa conferência.
Queria só anunciar mais uma coisa, é que temos agora, obviamente, a conferência da Judith e a seguir há espaço para perguntas e respostas da sala E a seguir há uma sessão em que o Judith se disponibilizou para assinar livros, quem quiser.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, of course I'll be very, very short because no one wants to listen to me, and
That's not true.
well, welcome everybody, of course, to this conference named Why Bodies Matter. And first of all, I would like to thank the kind and very, very prestigious invitation to moderate the conference. In fact, Judith Butler needs no presentation, but I will read a short biographical note she sent to us, okay? Judith Butler is Maxine Elliott Professor of Comparative Literature and Critical Theory at the University of California at Berkeley. She is the author of several books, including Gender Trouble, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity, Bodies That Matter, Undoing Gender, and Precarious Life. She is well known as a feminist, queer, and gender theorist who also published in the fields of nonviolence, ethical philosophy, and radical democratic politics. Like Mark said, after Judith's presentation, we'll have 30 minutes to collect questions from the audience. And please, because we are in a theater, and so we have strong lights, and please put your hands in the air, okay? Otherwise we can't know how many people are to make the questions. And so, Judith, I know that all of us, we must thank you so much for being our Judith Butler, okay, for having Traveler, and of course it was nice, Judith Butler. And the theater is now yours.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and I'm most honored and pleased to be here today at the Teatro Maria Matos. And I thank you for celebrating the anniversary of Gender Trouble, the 25th anniversary, with all of these very interesting performances and conferences. I'm particularly grateful to my generous hosts who made it possible for me to come here quite easily. Now, I am, of course, the author of that book, but I have changed in the last 25 years, and the book has taken on a life of its own. I certainly do not disavow the book. I continue to take pleasure in it and to defend it when it gets in trouble, as it sometimes does. It was written at the same time as many other important books and helped to instigate queer theory at the time. That wasn't my intention. I was surprised by the outcome, so from the start, this book that I made was doing something on its own, producing effects without me, and yet I am somehow still its author. I love this, right? People have told me that the book changed their lives, or that they found it exhilarating, or that it was just too difficult to read and they could not finish. And some of those who found it too difficult said that they kept on reading anyway, and then finally, over time, it made sense to them. I did not intend for the book to be so difficult. I didn't think the book would be read at all. So I should start with that apology. At the same time, I continue to think that if we only stay with thoughts that are already familiar to us, none of us would change, none of us would have the chance to regard the world we live in through another lens. I hope it's true that for those of you who read this book and who were perhaps changed by it, that they came to question that you came to question taken for granted assumptions about what gender is and how to think about sexuality. I tried to make room for the complexity of what we are, mainly because I think that life is more livable when we are not confined to categories that do not work for us, or categories that are imposed on us and take away our freedom. The task of feminism, the task of queer theory and activism, the task of trans theory and activism is surely to make it easier to breathe, easier to move down the street without harassment, easier to find a livable life, a life we can affirm with pleasure and joy, where our sense of a livable future is stronger than our experience of suffering. In the 25 years since I wrote Gender Trouble, I've had to encounter many critical questions, of course, even from those who work very closely with me. Sometimes my closest people are my harshest critics, as you can imagine. To this day, many people worry that Gender Trouble established sex as culturally constructed, and so refused or even repudiated the materiality of the body. I mean, I have dreams where people say this to me. How do we answer this criticism? First, it is necessary to consider that to say that a body is constructed is not to say that it's fully constructed, or that it is nothing but a construction. We have to understand in what sense and to what extent a body is shaped and endowed with significance by virtue of the historical framework in which it is understood and the historical discourses through which it is formed. So how do we think about the materiality of the body? Of course, we know that when we seek to understand the materiality of sex, there are various ways of doing so. Some people refer simply to what are called primary sexual characteristics. Others claim that sex characterizes both anatomical parts and something more elusive, even essential, about who a person is. Others insist that sex is a complex composite of anatomy, hormones, chromosomes, and yet others tend to think that all these scientific dimensions of sex are gathered together and defined by different reproductive functions. So you're female if you have that reproductive function, you're male if you have that reproductive function, and that which sex you are can be established by virtue of your relative place in heterosexual reproductive life. So for such a position, which is obviously not my own, the reproductive functions of men make sense of all those different elements, and the same for women. Now, as you know, some people base their views on the materiality of sex on religious doctrine. Others seek recourse to science. And as you probably know, religions do not always hold the same views. Even people within the same religion do not hold the same views. And of course, scientists are also involved in disputing their paradigms. They have conflicting paradigms. So we can't find absolute consensus among scientists on this issue either.